A man walks into a room wearing a $9,000 outfit. Nobody notices him. Another man walks in wearing a $500 outfit. Everyone notices the brand. The richer man is the one everyone ignored, and that's exactly how he wanted it. This isn't about fashion, it's a code, a language the ultra-rich have been using for decades, and most people never learn how to read it. For years, wealth had a uniform, big logos, flashy watches, designer belts. Luxury wasn't just something you owned, it was something everyone else was supposed to notice. Then, almost without anyone realizing it, the richest people quietly changed the rules. Today, if you can instantly recognize someone's luxury brand, there's a surprisingly good chance they aren't the richest person in the room, because modern wealth doesn't scream, it whispers, and once you understand the whisper, you'll never look at luxury the same way again. Back in the 80s and 90s, luxury brands were fighting for attention. Versace had the Medusa. Louis Vuitton covered everything in monograms. Gucci, especially under Tom Ford, turned the double G into a global status symbol. The message was simple, and for a while, it worked. Because luxury was rare, only a tiny percentage of people could access it. But success created an unexpected problem. The more successful luxury brands became, the more people wanted to copy them. Fast fashion recreated the look for a fraction of the price. Counterfeit factories flooded the market. Influencers rented designer bags for photos. Credit made luxury feel more accessible than ever. And suddenly, the logo stopped signaling wealth. It started signaling aspiration. Here's the brutal math. Real exclusivity disappears the moment everyone recognizes it. Luxury brands adapted. So did many of their wealthiest clients. So they didn't stop buying luxury. They stopped buying obvious luxury. The new uniform became quieter, softer, harder to recognize, and far more expensive. 3 brands explain the shift. Brunello Cucinelli. The Italian designer built an empire around cashmere, craftsmanship, and understated elegance. His philosophy was simple. The person should be seen before the brand. That idea became the entire point. Then there's Loro Piana. LVMH acquired it in 2013 for around $2.6 billion. Most people still wouldn't recognize it on the street. And that is exactly why it works. The brand is known for vicuña wool, one of the rarest fibers in the world. A single Loro Piana vicuña coat can cost around $25,000. No giant logo, no loud pattern, no announcement, just a coat that silently costs more than many people's car. Then there's the Row, created by Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. A plain white t-shirt can cost hundreds, a coat can cost thousands. And the entire premise is simple. If you know, you know. If you don't, you were never the audience. That is the new luxury code. The value isn't in being recognized by everyone. The value is in being recognized by the right few. But here's what almost everyone misses. This isn't really about fashion. It's about psychology. Economists call it signaling. Every purchase sends a message. The only question is, who is the message for? A Gucci logo is a broadcast. It tells everyone the same thing. Look at me. Quiet luxury works differently. It speaks only to people who already understand the language. Imagine 2 watches. A Rolex Submariner, roughly $10,000, recognized almost everywhere on Earth. Now imagine a Vacheron Constantin Patrimony, a watch that often costs several times more than a Rolex Submariner. Yet most people wouldn't recognize it if it was sitting on the table in front of them. And that's exactly the point. The man wearing the Rolex is speaking to the room. The man wearing the Vacheron is speaking to a handful of people. That's a completely different game. And the same pattern appears almost everywhere wealth exists. Private clubs with no signs outside, restaurants that don't advertise, tailors without Instagram accounts, invitation-only events. The less visible something becomes, the more valuable it often is. Because scarcity isn't only about price, it's about access. And access is something money alone can't always buy. This is what many luxury brands eventually discovered. The product isn't the product, the story is. Hermes isn't valuable because it makes handbags. It's valuable because it controls desire. Hermes tightly controls production while demand consistently exceeds supply. Waiting lists stretch for years. Some clients spend tens of thousands on other Hermes products before they're offered the opportunity to purchase a Birkin. Because exclusivity becomes more valuable when demand constantly exceeds supply. The waiting list becomes part of the luxury. Ownership isn't enough. You have to earn access. And suddenly, you're no longer buying leather, you're buying membership. But perhaps the most fascinating shift isn't what the wealthy buy. It's what they stopped buying. For decades, luxury was about proving success. Today, many of the wealthiest people in the world are optimizing for something completely different. Freedom. Freedom from trends. Freedom from comparison. Freedom from constantly explaining who they are. And that's why truly expensive luxury often looks surprisingly ordinary. The finest cashmere doesn't need a logo. The best leather doesn't need a pattern. The most exclusive tailor rarely needs a billboard. Because quality has a strange characteristic. The people who understand it recognize it instantly. Everyone else walks right past it. That's why quiet luxury isn't really invisible, it's selective. It's visible only to the people speaking the same language. In many ways, it's no different from art. Someone might walk past a painting worth $20 million without a second glance. An expert can spot its value in seconds. Luxury works exactly the same way. The logo tells everyone what something costs. Craftsmanship tells the right people why it costs that much. And that's the difference between buying attention and buying excellence. Once you understand that distinction, you begin to realize that the wealthiest people aren't trying to look rich. They're trying to surround themselves with things that remain valuable long after trends disappear. Then there's what I call the Casio paradox. Some billionaires don't just avoid logos, they avoid luxury altogether. Mark Zuckerberg became famous for wearing nearly identical gray t-shirts every day. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958. Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA, drove an old Volvo for many years, even after becoming one of the richest people in the world. And perhaps the strangest example is a simple Casio F91W, a watch that costs around $20. It's one of the cheapest watches you can buy. Some successful entrepreneurs have even become known for wearing surprisingly inexpensive watches. Why? Because once you've reached the top, status stops being something you wear. It becomes something you are. The greatest flex isn't proving you're rich. It's never feeling the need to prove it at all. But here's where the story becomes ironic. Quiet luxury became so successful that it stopped being quiet. TV shows like Succession turned stealth wealth into a global conversation. Loro Piana became famous precisely because it wasn't supposed to be. TikTok exploded with old money aesthetic. Millions of people started trying to dress like people who never tried to look rich in the first place. And that's when the cycle repeated itself. Because status symbols have one rule. The moment everyone understands them, they stop working. The wealthy don't follow trends, they leave them. By the time the rest of the world copies the signal, they've already moved on to the next one. Maybe that's the biggest lesson hidden inside stealth wealth. Luxury was never about the logo, never about the sweater, never even about fashion. It has always been about access. Access to knowledge, access to craftsmanship, access to circles, access to a language most people don't even realize exists. The logo didn't disappear. It simply moved somewhere only a few people know how to look. The world's richest people didn't stop buying luxury. They simply stopped buying attention. Because in the end, real wealth isn't about being seen. It's about never needing to be. We've decoded the system. This is Luxury Decoded. Subscribe for more hidden systems behind wealth, power, and luxury. What should we decode next? Tell us in the comments. We'll see you in the next decode.